Hi everyone, for our video today, I have some new goodies from Guerlain. So I actually found out recently that they reformulated their meteorites. And being a fan of the meteorites, I quickly messaged my sales associate at Guerlain here and I asked her if they had all of the four colors because it's very rare that they carry all four colors here in the Philippines because usually they just only carry either the lightest shades or even sometimes the medium shade. So I was actually very happy when she replied and said that they actually have all of the four colors available and they have them right here right now. So I am hoping that in creating this video it's going to prove useful and insightful, especially if you are someone who is a meteorite lover, and it will help you come to the conclusion on which color that you are going to get. Because before doing this video, I perused the Gurerlain.com website, the US website, and I found out that there were some differences between the newly reformulated Guerlain Meteorites, and that's what we will go through in this vlog today. Now, truthfully, when I saw some videos here on YouTube and even on Instagram of the new Guerlain Meteorites being released into the market, I was thinking to myself that I was not going to get any of them because I am basing this off of what happened during the holiday season back in 2023, wherein they released a holiday collection with new packaging of the meteorites, but the colors were the same. So I was like, if it's just going to be a repackaging and then it's the same colors, I'm not going to get it. But I was actually pleasantly surprised that it's actually different now. So I'm very happy to do this video with you and let's go through this together. I have not tried these yet, although I have opened the packaging already and saw the colors inside. And I just want to share some insight and again, hopefully this video will help you to come to the conclusion on what color that you're going to get, or if you indeed want to have this in your vanity. Okay, all right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk about these one by one. So I'm going to flip my camera over. Okay, all right, so I have all of the four newly reformulated Guerlain Meteorites here in front of me. Now before we talk about them individually, let's just take a look at the packaging. So the packaging is new. It comes in this very nice beige color with a black piping here at the bottom, and there's a gold foil here at the front, very reflective, very beautiful. And here at the top portion is the label for which meteorite is inside the box, and here on the side it's still some indicator about the product, and here on the other side is the ingredients of what is inside a Guerlain meteorite. Now what's interesting to me is that the ingredients used now are very minimal, because if we take a look from the previous packaging here on the side, this is how much ingredients is used to make one Guerlain meteorite. Look at that, very interesting. Now, it's also stated on the website that the newly reformulated Guerlain Meteorites uses 95% naturally derived ingredients. So if you're someone who's into those types of things, this is a good thing for you. But if you're someone who's highly allergic to a lot of natural ingredients, please proceed with caution before you actually purchase this product. Okay, now while we are at the topic of packaging design, especially the outer packaging, please indulge with me just a little bit because I just want to show you guys the previous packaging designs of the Guerlain Meteorites. So the previous collection before this release actually came in a pink box like this, also very nice and pretty. It's also very playful to a certain degree because you can actually see the colors of the meteorites here in the packaging. And then the package design during the 2000s came in a black box like this. So there was a drastic change from the 2000s to the more recent collection of Guerlain Meteorites, and then this is the more current design now. I think it has a much more luxurious feel to it, much more luxurious look. And I believe a lot of the changes that is going on for the Guerlain Meteorites actually also increase the price, because currently the Guerlain Meteorites here in the Philippines retails for 4,650. Now the previous Guerlain Meteorites retails for 3,400, and I can't remember how much it cost back in the early 2000s. So there's quite a drastic change. And also the other thing that's drastic about this is that during the 2000s, one tin of Guerlain Meteorites actually carries 33 grams of product, and then the most previous one actually carried only 25 grams of product. And then the newest reiteration of the Guerlain Meteorites only carries 20 grams of products. So we have less product, but it's actually now more expensive. So this can be quite a commodity, and I would understand why people will not actually buy this. But truly, if you're a fan of Guerlain, you'd understand that it's actually a very good product, and you get good value for money for this. The packaging of the meteorites also has changed. So this is how the tin looks like now. Look at that. It's very colorful, very playful, nice personality. And we still have this scallop design here, which is a very Guerlain design, even here on the cap. And if we open the cap here, you can see the bee design on that. Isn't that so amazing? Nice detailed work there. And also you can see the name Guerlain in one of the scallops here near the bottom of the tin. Now the piping of the scallops is, I believe, in gold. So yeah, so the piping is in gold, and I do have to say it is very reminiscent of the very early meteorite collection of Guerlain. So this was in around the 2000s, and this is the current one. So I believe that this is actually the inspiration of the current tin of the Guerlain Meteorites. Look at that. I'm really so happy with that. Isn't it so cool? Yeah. So you have everything here, package design, and even here on the bottom, you'll have all of the necessary details that you would need for the packaging, just so that you'll know which it's which, because after all, this is the 01 Pearly White Blanc Pearl meteorite. If we get the number 4 meteorite, the amber one, it's the same. So there's no distinct markings for you to identify which is which. So it's very important that we have the label here at the bottom. And also one other thing, you can use this for 12 months, but knowing that this is made out of powder, there's no water here, you can use it for longer, but I don't know how it will preserve now that the ingredients are actually very different from what it used to be. Now, speaking of ingredients, before we continue, I can actually see here that the main ingredient is still synthetic fluorophogopite. There's silica, and there's mica, and then a lot of things, but I can actually see the difference now from the previous ingredients list of Guerlain. So there's no talc now in the new Guerlain Meteorite. So if you're someone who's into that, then maybe this is a good news for you to hear. So if you want to know more about the ingredients of the newly released Guerlain Meteorite, please go to their website so that you can check it out for yourself. Okay, now the other changes in the Guerlain Meteorites is actually the powder puff inside. So now we have a ribbon here that actually holds the puff, so you can actually use this to add color and powder into your face by just tapping it. Because before, so here it is, this is the previous one, and as you guys can see, you only have the sponge here. So this is the one that actually just keeps it in place, but that's just what it does. I'm sure you were able to use this to apply powder on the face, but I primarily use this just to keep the pearls in place, and also to keep powder from flying out when I am traveling with this tin. So I'm actually very happy that we have a velour puff now, because at least we can use it, and especially that we have the ribbon here, so it's quite secure on your fingers. Okay, so we'll talk about some comparisons a little bit later, so I'm gonna put this back. Okay, so I'm gonna just line up everything now, and I'm gonna show you guys all of the different variants of the Guerlain Meteorites here on my table. Alright, so I have all of the Guerlain Meteorites lined up now in front of us, and let me just flip this over. Fantastic. So the first meteorite we'll be talking about is meteorite number 1, and this is the pearly white or blanc de pearl. So this is the color that you can see inside. As you can see, it's very, very light. So we have a white pearl here, and I think we have silvery pearls here. We have a very light pink pearl, and we also have a very light peachy golden pearl. Now this one is good to use for people who have very light to fair skin tones, because of the very light cast that this meteorite will actually give onto the skin. Now this is actually the first time that I am seeing this variant, because I was not able to get this from the previous collection of Guerlain Meteorites. So I'm actually very happy to have this in my collection. Look at that. I believe this will be very good to use as a highlighter as well. So but then, just be very careful with this because I think that this might be very silvery when it's going to apply on the skin. So we'll check out how this will actually impart color on the skin later. Okay, so again, this is Meteorite number 1, Pearly White Blanc de Pearl. Okay, next we have Meteorites number 2, or the Cool or Rosé variant of Meteorites. So as you guys can see here, we have a much more brighter collection of pearls inside the tin. We have a very vibrant pink. And we have some golden pearls here. We have silver pearls. We have a peachy pearl, the lavender pearl, and then we have the cyan colored pearl. Again, very, very nice. So again, as I've said in my previous Guerlain Meteorites video, if all of these colors actually get mixed and get broken down, it actually ends up becoming a neutral beige powder. And because it has a very light color, this will be perfect to use with people who have fair to light medium skin tone. Look at that. Okay, next we're going to be talking about Meteorites number 3. This is the warm or Torre meteorite. Torre means golden, and that's why we have this very golden tone that we see here on the tub. So if you have golden skin tones, very nice warm yellow undertones, and I think also a little olive, this will work for you. Look at that. Very nice. I love the color story that I'm seeing here because this will actually work with a lot of people who have much more medium golden skin tones. Very lovely. Look at that. So we still have silvery pearls. We have a golden pearl here. We have a muted pinky brown pearl here. We still have the lavender pearls, and I think we still have some peachy pearls here. So it's actually quite interesting to me to see this, and there's no cyan colored pearls on this. So I'm actually very, very happy to see all the colors that I can see here because I think I have been waiting for a meteorite color like this. So let me put that down. And the final meteorite is Meteorite number 4, and this is in amber or ambre, and this one has a much more warmer tone, also deeper because we have some chocolatey pearls here. We still have some golden pearls here. We have a vibrant red pearl here, amazing. And then we have some golden pearls here, which I'm sure you guys can see looks to be a little bit yellow. And we still have some peachy colored pearls on this. So if you have deep skin tones with warm undertones, especially red undertones, this will actually work for you. And so as you guys can see, if I'm going to put the puffs and line them up together, this will be the color that you will primarily see on your skin. I believe so. So it's very light color here. Here, more fair, and then we have warmer skin tones, and we have deeper skin tones here. Very nice. Okay, so let me just put this here on top. And then I'm just going to get the previous collection of the meteorites. Okay, so this is Claire. This is one of the lightest shades of the Guerlain Meteorites from its previous collection. And I do have to say that looking at this now, it's actually very similar to the Meteorites number 2, the Cool or the Rosé variant of the current collection of the Guerlain Meteorites. So now that I have these two tubs right beside each other, I can actually see that there's a difference in vibrancy between these two, because as you guys can see, the lavender colors, the rose colors, the gold colors, even the green colors here, it's more vibrant. So I believe you have more pigment in the current collection than the previous collection, because after all, this is also very, very light. Look at that. Very nice. So at least we still have the same colors here, but it's very different. Very different. So you'll have more color payoff with this now. And I can also see that you actually have more shimmer in the pearls here than with this one. But then again, maybe that might have just been caused by one of the pearls here that broke down during transportation. Very interesting. Look at that. Okay, so let me put them down. All right, next we have the medium Guerlain Meteorites from the previous collection. And as you guys can see from the color story here, it's very similar to Claire. But the main difference is you actually have more, skin tone color pearls in this than in this. Now, if I was going to compare medium to any of the meteorites from the current collection, you actually don't have something that's similar. Well, I could say that it's actually quite similar to the Meteorites number 2, the cool or rosé meteorite, but like the colors here are more vibrant, while this one is more muted, and you don't see these like skin tone color pearls here. So again, that's actually quite interesting to me. But I do have to say, if we're going to compare this to the golden meteorite here from the current collection, they're also like they're quite similar, but there's a difference in undertone now between these two. So it's very obvious, like the golden meteorite here is actually very, very warm, and it will work more with people who have medium skin tones, because this one will only work for people who have like fair skin tones, or even those skin tones who are quite like still light even if they're medium. But once you have like some pigment in your skin, like if you've gotten a little bit olive, if you've gotten a little bit warmer, you can't actually use this because it's actually going to be too light for you. So I'm actually glad that we now have this golden toned meteorite in the current collection. Very nice. Okay, next we have Torre. So this was the deepest Guerlain meteorite available in the previous collection. And can you imagine that this is called Torre and this is called Torre now? Look at the difference in that on the tone. Okay. Now this one, even if we have deeper pearls here, it was actually it enabled to give like a much more deeper coloring into the skin. But I think, if I do remember, it's not deep enough. So I'm actually so glad to see the amber color now, because the amber meteorite in the current collection for sure will work with people who actually have deeper skin tones, because this one, it will impart a much more like reddish tone on the skin, while this one for sure will give a much more like deeper impact of color on the skin. Look at that. And I'm actually glad that like the amber color here doesn't have the lavender pearls anymore, because it will not work if you would have like blue tones here, because after all, like as you guys can see, it's quite warm, and the lavender pearls, if it was incorporated into this, will just like add some ashiness into it, because it's going to like counteract with the warm tones on this, and it's going to end up becoming neutral. And sometimes like if you have deeper skin tones, and if you have like warm undertones in your skin, any hint of like cool tones will actually make your skin look ashy. So I'm actually glad that there is no cool tone color pearls on the amber meteorites from the current collection. Okay. Now, before I flip my camera over, I'm actually quite happy on like the very diverse type of undertone that Guerlain has given into their meteorites, and especially for people who have deeper skin tones, I'm so glad that this is like available now, because like this will be such a good addition into the makeup routine of a person who has darker skin tones. But I do have to say though that I wish that they would still come out with a variant of the terracotta summer stones that they released years ago, because I believe that this colorway will work very well with people who have deeper skin tones, especially if you have like cooler undertones in your skin. Look at that. Now, this is not the packaging of it. The packaging of this broke years ago, so I just salvaged it and kept it in this packaging, because I really love the colorway here, and it's one of my most favorite Guerlain Meteorites products that was ever released. And if I just put it right beside the amber Guerlain Meteorites, I'm sure you guys can see the color difference. This one is cooler, this one is warmer. So I hope they make a variant like this that can fit with people who have deeper skin tones, because like it's just going to make it more diverse, if you know what I mean. Okay, now speaking of like difference in skin tones, this one is perfect for people who have light skin tones with rosy undertones, because of course we have like the pinky tones of the pearls here, and even like the peachiness there. But I was hoping that they would have come out with a meteorite that had more like yellow tones like this, because this will work perfectly with people who have light to fair skin tones but with much more warmer undertones. So if we put this here and we put something like this here, I hope you guys can understand what I'm talking about. And if I put this here, maybe that should be perfect. And I do have to say that if we put the previous medium Guerlain Meteorite here. I think it's gonna be a perfect combination wherein you can have like a bridge color between these two. Because after all you have some skin tone color pairs here, and then this one is just like I believe to be too golden, and there are some medium skin tones there who don't have golden undertones, so I think this would have been still perfect. Yeah, so anyway, so that's just me rambling. So I'm still being hopeful here, and hopefully in the future we'll see more diverse colors available in the permanent collection of Guerlain Meteorites. Alright, so that's it. So if you're actually interested to hear more of my thoughts about the Guerlain Meteorites, I'm gonna put a link down in the description box to my previous Guerlain Meteorites video, and I have explained, I think in the first portion of the video on the reasons why I actually enjoy these powders and the concept behind them. So again, so if you're just a nerd, and if you're very interested in makeup and how color theory actually works, please check out the first part of that video because I think you might find that quite interesting. Okay, alright, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a hint of foundation and some concealer, and let's proceed from there. So I'm just going to zoom over this, okay? Alright, so I have some foundation down, some concealer, and right now I'm just blending out the powder that I used to set my concealer, but I actually left the rest of my face free of powder because after all we'll be trying out the meteorites on us today. And also one other thing, I'm using a matte foundation, so at least we'll see again how these powders will actually work on my skin. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set my face, and I'm going to be using the color Warm, which is number 3, and I actually like the color tones that we see here mainly because I have warm tones on my skin. So I'm going to be using this PF4 brush. This is from Chikuhodo, and I'm just going to really tap it into the pearls here. Now, one thing that I can say right now is that the scent is quite different. It's not as floral as the previous Meteorites collection. There's a hint of, I think, vanilla on it now. There's still that floral note. And I think there's I think there's a hint of, I don't know, sandalwood in here. Or even maybe it's a little bit herby, but it's actually a little bit overwhelming in my opinion because I still prefer the previous meteorite scent. So hang on, let me just go through the meteorite website again. Okay, so I found it. So according here to the website, Delphine Gelk, Guerlain perfumer, and Violette, Guerlain makeup creative director, came together to revisit the Meteorites' iconic scent. The violet floral heart has been preserved, so it's still there. To bring sensuality and modernity, a woodier facet with a sandalwood, musk, and vanilla note was actually added into these Guerlain Meteorites, and that's the scent that I now smell. So it even has an oriental facet to it. But anyway, so that's just me, and I also love sandalwood, by the way, so it's one of my most favorite scents. Anywho, so I have the powder here now on this brush, and I'm just going to apply it generously all over my skin, and I'm just either patting it and tapping it. I'm really buffing it into my skin. Now I do have to say, again, as soon as you buff the brush into your skin, you can actually smell the perfume. So if you have issues with scents in makeup, this might be something that you should be very careful with. But if you love scents like I do, I really don't mind the scent here. And the scent doesn't linger. After you've applied the powder, it kind of dissipates, although I can smell it a little bit, but it won't stay long. Alright, so this is how it looks like on my skin, and I believe this is my shade for the Guerlain Meteorites. And I actually love it. So like in comparison, as you guys can see here, my skin is quite flat and matte, while here it's quite dewy. You still have that very nice shine going on. But I actually love that it did not change the color tone of my skin, which is actually fantastic. So if you have warm undertones on your skin, this warm number 3 will actually be perfect. But then again, you should always be careful, because if you have textured skin, anything that has highlighting qualities in a powder will really accentuate that texture. Like this one, so I have a disrespectful blemish on my forehead today. Alright, so I'm using this in a setting kind of a powder application, wherein I'm just really buffing the brush into my skin and trying to set the foundation that I used earlier. And I am seeing that it's still giving my skin that very nice soft focus kind of an effect. There's still that hint of luminosity, like here on my cheekbones, in this part of my nose, brow bone area. So again, it's still very effective in actually highlighting your face. Look at that, very nice. It doesn't look stripy at all, which is actually perfect, but I can still see that reflectivity going on. I actually like it. Look at that, very nice and very pretty. Nice coverage, but I'm still a little bit on the fence on using this as a setting powder, because I don't know why they actually reformulated it in such a way. Even after doing this procedure right now, I would still use this in a finishing powder kind of a way, wherein I would actually use this at the end of my makeup routine, just so that if I made my face just way too matte, it's just going to add radiance into my skin. Okay, so what I'm going to do is on this side of my face, I'm just going to add some powder, just to set everything. Okay, I'm just dusting a very thin layer of some loose powder from Laura Mercier. Okay, so my skin is quite matte now, and what I like to do is just brush a hint of this all over my face, and just blending it very nicely all over, and to see what's the main difference. Alright, so now that I have a thin layer of the newly reformulated Guerlain Meteorites on this part of my face, remember I used a setting powder on this part, okay? And the main difference that I see is that it's not as radiant. So as you guys can see here, I did not use any setting powder of sorts on the foundation. So you can see this very radiant nature on my skin. While here, I can see a very faint highlight going on, wherein it's just giving enough life onto my skin. So if you are someone who has oily skin like I do, I suggest that you do this kind of application technique, wherein you use a loose powder first, or a setting powder, and then if you find that it's too matte, you can just add a hint of this on top of that, and it's just going to bring back some life into your skin. Nice dimension. But if you have dry skin, and you just want to look like you're very dewy, and then you have this very nice radiant skin, apply this right after you have used your foundation, and you can see this very nice radiant finish going on. So I'm actually liking how this is working for me right now. Truly amazing. Look at that. Oh, I was not expecting this at all, and I'm actually liking the results that I see. Very beautiful, very nice. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to add some highlight. Now, basing off of what I saw at the Guerlain website, the US website, they actually show a diagram here wherein you can actually use some of the powders as a targeted highlighter of sorts, which is actually fantastic, because when the original meteorites was presented into the market, it was not marketed in such a way. But if you would have seen my previous Guerlain Meteorites video, that's actually how I use the other variants of the Guerlain Meteorites that I had in my collection. So I would actually use the lighter shades to use as a highlighter of sorts, and then I would actually use the deeper variant to use it as a bronzer of sorts. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the color variant in cool rose. And let me get a small brush of sorts. Do I have any here? Okay, so I'm going to be using my Chikuhodo small Yachiyo brush, and I'm just going to tap it here onto the curl, and then I'm going to add some of that here on my cheekbones and blend that well. So I'm actually seeing a hint of highlight going on, but it's actually cool. So I'm still in the fence to actually use this in that manner, because I would have preferred if it was more like, golden. Anyway, so let me add some of that here and here, and I'm going to blend that into my cheeks. Wow, you can actually really see that nice, hint of highlight popping on my skin, and it's actually not stripy at all. And then, I'm sure there are some of you who are worried, if you can see micro glitters. I don't actually see micro glitters here. I'm sure there is some shimmer in this product, but I don't see big chunks of it on top of my skin, and that actually is great because it actually makes it more seamless. It doesn't make it look quite obvious. It's actually very nice. Okay, so this is how powder number 2, the rose colored powder, looks like as highlight on my skin. What do you guys think? I think it's lovely. Even if it's cool, it still kind of works for me. I actually like that. But now that I am seeing this, I actually will not use this in my under eye area because it might just be too light and it might look too ashy. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the number 4 meteorites, the one that's called Amber, and this is what I'm going to use as a bronzer of sorts. So I'm actually quite excited for this. Look at that. Very nice color tones. So what I'm going to do is, I think I need a fluffier brush for this. Hang on, let me come back because I don't have one here in front of me. Okay, so I have the Face Pro from Sonia G here, and I'm just going to dunk the brush head into the tin here, and I can actually see some of the color here on the brush head now, and I'm just gonna lightly sweep it here on top of my cheeks. Ooh, and that's actually looking quite lovely. So I just have to be very light-handed with this. I'm not actually even pressing the brush head with so much pressure on my cheeks, because it's a very deep toned finishing powder. But I'm actually liking on how it's giving my face some dimension and also some warmth. Look at that. Ooh. So if you have deeper skin tones than I do, this will be a nice highlighting powder for you. Setting, I'm not so sure because it has a very red tone to it, very warm. So not unless if you have warm undertones in your skin, then this might work as a setting powder for you. But other than that, I think this is a good highlighting powder as well, or even as a blush color. This would be nice for you. Look at that. Very nice hint of warmth that's giving onto my skin. Not too obvious. Giving my skin a nice hint of dimension. Okay, I'm just going to remove any excess color on a microfiber towel, and I'm just going to buff it ever so lightly all over my cheeks. Now, as I'm doing this, if you have fair to medium skin like I do, and you've had a tan recently and it's starting to fade, you can use this color just to enhance the tan a bit, just to give a hint of warmth into your skin again, so that you lose that ashiness. So this is a very nice color for that. Very lovely. Okay, next I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the number 3 powder. So this is the warm powder, and I'm just going to brush a little bit of that here on my cheeks, just to blend everything into the amber colored meteorites that I used on my cheeks. It's actually very nice. I love that. And let me just get some translucent powder, just to mattify that part of my face and just to buff out any highlighting colors, because that will just really help to open up this part of my face, and it's not gonna make my cheekbones way too round. But I actually love how everything worked for me today. So I have the color rose on my skin as a highlight, targeted highlight. Then I have the warm, yes, the Meteorites number 3, the golden powder all over my face. Very beautiful, and like as a targeted bronzer kind of a situation, I use the amber meteorites, which is the number 4 meteorites here and here. Fantastic, very beautiful. I like that. Okay, and just to finish off this look, I am going to get the lightest meteorites in this collection, and this is the number 1 powder, and this is called the Blanc de Pearl. Okay, now this one, for sure, I can only use this as a highlighter, and I'm actually on the fence of actually using this on myself right now because it's just too light. But if you have very, very light skin tones, think Nicole Kidman, then maybe you can actually use this. So right now I'm just tapping this brush here onto the pearls, and I have a little bit of the product here on the brush head, and I'm just going to use this as a highlighter of sorts. Wow. Okay, so this has some very wonderful pigment. It can actually be a good highlighter. Look at that. So it enhanced actually the number 2 powder, the rose powder that I actually used earlier, and it actually made it more obvious. Oh, very interesting. Now, as I've said earlier, this has some pearls that are in light pink color. There's also a very light golden pearl here, but there's really a lot of white pearls on this. It's actually really making my skin really pop right now. So again, you can actually use this for targeted highlight application. And if you're someone who likes to add nice highlights on your nose, you can actually use this. But I don't need to do that because, as you guys can see, my nose is already naturally oily, so I don't want to add any more highlights there. And maybe if you have a smaller brush, let's say this PF4 brush, you can just dip it here onto the pearl, and then you can just add it here in the inner corner of your eye. And I think that would just really help to open up that part of it, and it adds a hint of highlight, which is actually quite lovely. And I'm not using any eyeshadow for us today, but if I just add a hint of this number 1 powder, the Blanc de Pearl, here on my eyelids, it's just reworking with the natural shadows of my face, and it's bringing some light into that. It's actually quite lovely. I like that. Beautiful. That's actually very beautiful. Okay, what do you guys think? Please let me know down in the comments box, okay? Now, I actually kind of like the fact that we now have a powder puff here on top of the meteorites, because if you're someone who doesn't have brushes, all you can do is just flip the tin of the meteorites over, give it a little shake, and then what you'll see here is actually the powder on the puff, and you can actually see on the tones that we have on this powder here. And this is what you'll use to actually apply this powder all over. So this one will give you more coverage, and this will act more in a setting powder kind of a way. And as you guys can see on how very wonderful the instant soft blur that this gave my skin. Very, very beautiful. I actually like that. And I'm just tapping the puff here on my skin. Look at that. Look how beautiful. We have this even it's very radiant. It's not highlighty because here it's very highlighty. It's very dewy, but here it's very radiant and it's soft focus, and it's actually quite beautiful. I love this shade. Super. I was not expecting this at all, because in the previous collection, the medium shade, it was not as deep as this, and it didn't have that golden undertone that I would have really needed for my skin, especially right now that I have a tan. So this actually will work extremely well for me. Very beautiful, and I kind of like it though, because like, you know, like thinking of it in hindsight, like the older meteorites collection, the rose color and the medium color, they were not very far apart from each other in terms of depth and, like, you know, undertone of color. Very nice. But look at that. Very beautiful, very pretty. I kind of like the fact that we have the shade here right now. Super. I don't know what took them so long to actually create, like, you know, much more finer shades like this that can work with an array of, like, you know, skin tones. Very beautiful. I like that. And if you're someone who doesn't like to use the puff that comes with the meteorites tin, and if you're, like, you know, a brush lover, what you can do is you just remove the puff on top of the meteorites here, put on the cap, flip it over, just wiggle the meteorites a little bit, and then flip it back to its proper position. Open the lid here, and you can see that the tin now has some powder, and then you can either get, like, you know, one of your most favorite, like, you know, brushes to use to set your face. You can just pick up some of that powder, and then you can just apply that all over your skin. Beautiful radiance, beautiful, amazing. I am loving this formula. I believe that they did really, like, you know, reformulated it, and I can see now on my skin that the powder used on these are finer, and you don't have a lot of, like, the micro glitters that you would have gotten in the previous meteorites collection. Very beautiful. And again, mind you, this is how it looks on my skin, and I am using natural light with us today. So this is as close as it gets that you will see when you see me walking on the street. Very beautiful. Again, I love the finish that it gives on my skin. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but it bears repeating, okay? Yeah, look at that. Very beautiful. And mind you, if you have, like, you know, two colors of this, depending on your skin tone, you can actually use it, like, you know, as a either a base powder color, and you can use one as a highlighting shade. And if you're willing to spend more of your money, you can always get the deeper color, you know, shade number 4, amber, and that's what you're going to use to add this very nice, like, you know, hint of warmth onto your skin. Alright, so I believe that's it. We have come to the end of my video for today. But before I truly let you guys go, one final observation. I do have to say that the newly reformulated Guerlain Meteorites powder is actually sitting very well on top of my skin, and it's not sinking into my pores, which is actually lovely. So it means it's not accentuating, like, you know, a lot of the texture that I have on my skin. Yep, alright, that's it. So if you guys have any more questions on how I use the Guerlain Meteorites powders, the newly reformulated ones, please let me know down in the comments box, and let's have a conversation about it, okay? And if you do happen to have one of the newly reformulated powders, please let me know what's your favorite, what color that you're using, and what you like to use it for, because maybe I might learn something from you, okay? Alright, so that's it for me today. I'm gonna let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye!